So, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this medicine safety webinar. Before we jump into the presentation, I do want to go over just a few quick housekeeping items. First, I want to draw your attention to that chat box there at the lower right-hand corner. This is going to be an interactive presentation, and we will be asking for and encouraging your participation in the discussion. So you can either reply all to the whole group, or if you'd rather, you can privately message me, Ali Treichel, by selecting my name from that drop-down menu right above where you will be typing. I'll also be monitoring this chat box for any questions that might come up throughout the presentation for our Q&A portion. So please feel free to type in any and all questions, and we'll get to those at the end. We'll also be linking to some digital materials and websites that are referenced throughout this presentation, so please be sure to keep an eye out in that chat box. This webinar will be recorded for future viewing and sharing, and the Oregon Poison Center will also be recording a translated Spanish version that will be available later this year. So thank you so much to the Oregon Poison Center. Lastly, we will be drawing some names for our medicine lockbox giveaway at random from our attendee list. You must be present to claim your prize, so please be sure to stay until the very end. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Lucy Drum for some introductions. Lucy?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Lucy Drum, and I'm the Community Education and Media Relations Manager for American Medical Response at AMR in Portland. I'm also the coordinator for Safe Kids Portland Metro, and Safe Kids is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preventing childhood injuries. So that's really why we're here today, is to try to make a difference. It is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Eskridge, Master of Public Health and Certified Health Education Specialist. Jennifer is a community outreach educator at the Oregon Poison Center at OHSU in Portland. Her role at the Poison Center is to educate the community about poisons, poison prevention, and to promote the services of the Regional Poison Center. Jennifer has worked in public health and healthcare for more than 15 years in both Oregon and California. Well, Jennifer, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Our goal today is to provide you some information about medicine-related poisonings, reminders about medicine safety, and strategies to keep families safe. We also want to connect you with resources as we have this discussion. So please keep an eye out for those and also take advantage of what's out there to use. So let's jump in. All right, so to start off, let's open up that chat. We would love to hear about a time your child or a child in your life surprised you by something that they did. So maybe it's something you didn't know they could do. Maybe there was a time that your child hid in a funny place, or you found them doing something mischievous. So again, this could be your own child or a grandchild, someone you care for, or a niece and nephew. So we'd love to hear your stories in the chat. Go ahead and open that up and let us know what you want to share.
Yeah, we'll wait for some of those stories to come through the chat. While we wait for that, I know I used to be a nanny when I was in college, and the kids that I watched were constantly doing things that surprised me. One time we were playing outside and they got into the trunk of the car. I didn't know that they knew how to use the key mechanism. Be creative. Oh, we've got some stories coming through. Somebody's daughter got into sister's pain medicine.
Oh boy, yep. Yeah.
We've got a kiddo who, when they were 4, shoved a grape up his nose.
Oh boy. Foreign objects.
Ouchie.
A nephew who figured out how to open a bottle of melatonin, even though it was childproof.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about childproof versus child resistant. And melatonin too, that's a really common exposure among young children. Absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know in my own experience, I surprised my parents when I was about 4 because I was able to reach up on the counter and take the Flintstone vitamins off the counter. I hid them behind the couch and I ate them for a few days. I only got caught because the neighbor boy followed me to my hiding spot and wanted in on it. I didn't share. I guess I was kind of selfish, but he told on me. And that actually was a good thing because my parents found out and could call poison control. And I was fine, which is great. That's a huge blessing. But just like with my story, sometimes the ways kids surprise us can be concerning, right? Like some of you mentioned some of those situations where kids were eating things or putting things in their body that could be a little dangerous or harmful. But it does remind us to consider things from a child's perspective, right? And think differently about how we do things in our child's environment. So keep these stories in mind, and if anything else comes to mind, feel free to add it. We'll come back to this idea in a few minutes. So what exactly are we talking about when we say medicine? Well, it can be pills, liquids, topical creams. It can be prescribed by a doctor or purchased over the counter. So this includes, adult medicines, vitamins, supplements, cough and cold medicines, even gummy vitamins, eye drops, and diaper rash products. So you might not always think about eye drops or diaper rash cream as a medicine, but it actually is. It has an active ingredient, and that active ingredient is intended to cause a reaction, right? It's either intended to treat something or prevent something from happening. The number of prescription and over-the-counter medicines in the U.S. households continues to rise each year. This means there's a greater chance of kids being exposed to medicine. Nationwide, every 9 minutes, a young child goes to the ER because they got into medicine. And every hour, a young child is hospitalized because of it. So that means they were sick enough to be admitted to the hospital. And nationally, every 12 days, a child dies because they got into medicine. We see some similar trends in Oregon, where poisoning from drugs and medicine is the top cause of hospitalization for children. So when we talk about medicine poisoning, this means a couple of things. Kids got into medicine they weren't supposed to have. Kids were given the wrong amount of medicine, or kids were given someone else's medicine. So that could be a grandparent's medicine, sibling's medicine, right? Or even a pet's medicine. That happens too. So who's most at risk? Well, young children learn about the world through their senses, right? So they're seeing things, they're touching, they're tasting things. They also have very limited ability to control their own behavior. So when you combine that curiosity with low impulse control, the temptation to touch and taste things in their environment is high. This is especially true when medicines can look like candy. We have some examples here with medicines and their look-alike candy counterpart, just to show you how hard it can be to tell the difference. Even for adults, right? So imagine a child finds a pill on the floor or a countertop. They have no way of knowing if that's Advil or it's a brown M&M. So curiosity and low impulse control is primarily why very young children, mostly 1 and 2-year-olds, are the age group that gets into medicine the most. Older children are also at a higher risk for medicine poisoning, but for different reasons than young children. Research shows that children are starting to self-medicate as young as 11, and that 90% of teens are self-administering over-the-counter medicines by the age of 16. So they're pretty independent at that point. And when older children and teens are not equipped with the knowledge and training to make safer choices, mistakes can happen. Safe Kids Worldwide did some research with parents. Most said they usually keep medicine up and away, and that's good, that's what we want. But researchers realized parents weren't thinking of pills in purses, vitamins on counters, or medicine left on a nightstand. So there's a difference, right, between where parents store medicine versus where they're keeping medicine. So these are some of the other places where kids are finding medicine, and they're not necessarily the same places where parents are storing it. So the research also showed that most parents store medicine in at least one location where it's either within reach or within sight of a child, and those are considered unsafe. Most of the time, when a child goes to the emergency room for medicine poisoning, the medicine was within the child's reach. So whose medicine is it? Well, in one study of emergency department data, due to medicine exposures, 48% of the medicine involved belonged to grandparents. So we know the population is aging and living longer, right? That's a great thing. But adults over 65 tend to take more prescription medicine than younger adults. And the number of grandparents living with their grandchildren has increased by 24% since 2005. So the household is changing. The number of children living in a house where a grandparent is head of household doubled between 1980 and 2014. And 13% of grandparents care for a grandchild on a regular basis. That's also a wonderful thing. There are a lot of opportunities for interaction between kids and medicine grandparents may be using or carrying with them. Some of the common products kids get into are pictured here, right? Pain medicine, vitamins, laxatives, vapor rubs. We mentioned diaper rash products earlier. In Oregon, the most common medicine exposure calls we receive at the Poison Center for children under 5 are for ibuprofen, melatonin, that was mentioned before, children's acetaminophen, so that's like a children's Tylenol, diaper rash products, and children's vitamins, right? So from my own story, children's vitamins. And then the most common medicine exposure calls for older children and teens were also for ibuprofen, so common in homes, adult acetaminophen, antidepressants, melatonin, and more antidepressants. So you can see some similarities among both age groups with ibuprofen and acetaminophen products. Those are very, very common in our households. The products older children and teens get into are not necessarily accidents. I just want to mention that. We're seeing an increase in poisonings because older children and teens have gotten into these types of medicines to self-medicate or to harm themselves in some cases. And this is a growing trend in the last few years. Even products that seem benign, like ibuprofen and acetaminophen, can have pretty serious effects if taken in the wrong amount. Okay, so for our next audience chat, we want to know, where do you store medicine? Where do you keep it? Are those different things? Do you keep it in multiple places around your home or on your person? What comes to mind as we talk about medicines in the home?
Okay, we've got some chats coming in. We've got kitchen table, medicine cabinet, purse. I know I do that a lot of times for over-the-counter ibuprofen in my purse. We've got upstairs closet on top of the fridge. That's another common one.
Yeah.
I know I sometimes keep medicine in the cup holder of my car. On the go, it's always on me. In the pantry, in a medicine box on top of the fridge.
Wow, great. Absolutely. So lots of places. Thank you guys for participating in this chat. Yeah, I think that's so common for all of us, right? These different places around the home and things, you know, when we're mobile, we have it with us. We're just, we're keeping it everywhere. So I guess keep that in mind as we consider those places that might be accessible to children. And as we talk more, maybe some more things will come to mind for you. So let's talk a little bit more about what we can do with all this, right? How can we keep kids safe? What are those strategies? What do we need to know about that? So safe storage is really top of mind in this conversation. And that means keep over-the-counter medicine, prescription medicine, vitamins, all of those things out of children's reach and sight. Even for medicine you take every day, or medicine you have to take more than once a day. Out of reach for a child generally means that medicine is kept in a drawer or cabinet that is at or above counter height. You may keep medicine in a purse, backpack, or diaper bag, right? A lot of us do that, but children can get into those pretty easily. So one strategy for that is to hang those bags on a high hook or put them on a shelf out of reach, right? So we're really trying to create that space between a child's environment and the medicine.
And Jennifer, we have our last entry here. They have 2 locations high up in a cupboard in the bathroom and the kitchen.
Okay, great. Yeah, high up. Great job, you guys. So 1 in 3 parents believe that if a child is being watched, then it doesn't matter where medicine is being stored. However, we know it's almost impossible to keep your eyes on a child for every single minute of the day. And this can be even more challenging when there's multiple children, right? So there's a couple of kids, or maybe you're watching your friend's kids. It becomes even harder to keep track of everything. Even when a parent or caregiver just turns their back for a minute, it's possible for their child to get into the medicine that is within their reach. This is true in my own story, right? When I got into those vitamins, I was being supervised, but I was still able to get to them. So think back to those stories that were shared about things our kiddos did that surprised us. How many of those things happened when kids were being watched? Maybe someone just turned their back for a moment, right? Took a phone call, stepped into the next room. We'll talk about some important information and strategies to create some extra layers of protection to keep your family safe. So child resistant, right? This is a topic that we continue to talk about. There is some confusion about what child resistant actually means. Child resistant packaging does not mean it's child-proof. It means that the packaging meets a standard that requires it to be significantly difficult for children under 5 to open within a reasonable time. It really only slows children down if they're determined to get into it. And remember, child-resistant packaging only works if that cap or closure is resecured completely after each use, right? So you put the cap back on and then you store it safely. And then even if your child gets into it, it may give an extra 30 seconds or a minute before they can get to the medicine inside the container. So this is another reason we recommend medicine be stored out of reach and out of sight every time. So we know that as kids get older, they're more adventurous, right? They're curious about the world around them and become little explorers, climbing on things, finding out what's going on in their environment. About half of all the over-the-counter medicine-related poisonings involve a child climbing onto a piece of furniture or counter to reach medicine. So this suggests storing medicine out of reach is not enough. It needs to be stored out of sight as well. So for our next chatbot question, where are some of the places in your home that your child likes to climb? Are these places near where you store medicine? Use the chat box to share your ideas, guys.
I'll give everybody a few seconds to type in the chat box there. On the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Chairs,
Mm-hmm.
counters, the banister.
Oh, yeah. Right, lots of places that'll give them a little leverage or a new perspective on their world. Again, these sort of brainstorming or conversations help us understand those places a child might be able to reach if they see medicine, right? If they really want to get at something, they're going to use all of those things to get there. So speaking of climbing, here's a great example of a climber who could get to something way up high. Look at her go.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
She's determined.
Yeah, we've got a comment in the chat that that's both impressive and scary.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it looks like she went up there to get a pen that was at the top of the fridge.
A pen.
A pen. So you get the idea. If she knew she could see medicine up there, she could get to it potentially, right? I mean, I
Oh, boy.
don't know if you guys have seen kids in your life climb like that, but that is a reality for a lot of families. So that's why we recommend taking it a step further and locking it up if possible. Right, medicine lock boxes and bags are a great way to do this. We have a few examples here on this slide, but even using a locking cabinet or a simple cabinet lock can go a long way to adding that extra barrier of protection for your family. You can see the woman in this photo is using one of those very simple over the knob cabinet locks, and she's securing whatever's in that cabinet. And Poison Center recommends this as part of broader universal prevention strategy for all your medicine, cleaning supplies, marijuana products, and e-cigs or vapes if you have those in your house. All those things can be dangerous for kids. So this is a great way to keep everything in one place, right? Collect it all, keep it in that cabinet, and then lock it. And these boxes are also really helpful. The bag, I know I have one. I use it when I travel or I'm on the go, and I put my medicine in that bag. It packs in your suitcase. You can keep it in your diaper bag. And these are going to provide that extra layer of protection we're talking about. So remember too that visitors and family and friends who come to your home will need a safe place to store their medicine. So whether they're coming for dinner or staying for a few days, handbags, overnight bags, even a jacket, all those things might have medicine in it. And it's really important to keep in mind where other people keep their medicine matters. So just to review a few things we talked about, we want to keep all those medicines in their original package so there's no confusion about what's in the container, right? So keep it in the bottle rather than transferring it to a plastic bag or another type of container. Those child-resistant lids are not childproof, but they can help slow a child down if they're secured properly every time. And then we want to keep medicine and vitamins out of a child's reach and sight. Even things you take every day. You can see the woman in this photo is putting those really high. And think about places where you store medicine, as well as places you're keeping medicine, which is a little bit different. But as we know, we're keeping medicine places on our person or within reach for convenience typically. So if you do need to use those easy open containers, right, maybe there's some dexterity or arthritis in the hands, got to be really careful about where you keep that. So if you're using the easy open lid or you're using a pill minder, you do need to add an extra layer of protection, either locking it up or putting it really, really high where a child can't get to it, because those things are not child resistant. Those types of packaging are not child resistant. And then with friends and family, really easy way to do that is when they come over, just say, hey, my child is really curious right now, and they're probably going to go through your stuff. So do you mind if we put it up here, and then designate that cabinet or that high shelf, or even a closet with a lock on it if they're just there for a couple hours. That's a real easy way, straightforward way to find a safe place and make it convenient for your guests. So another strategy that we want to talk about is setting reminders. So some of the research was showing medicine was being left out or easily accessible just because people needed that visual reminder to take it. So we can do some other things to remind ourselves to take medicine. So one of the things we can do is to write a note to ourselves, right? Do that sticky note right on the bathroom mirror. That's a pretty straightforward way. Setting an alarm on your cell phone is another great way to do that. You set it for 7 o'clock or whenever you need to take the medicine. And it's a daily alarm that goes off, and then that's your cue to go to your cabinet or your locked area and go find your medicine. Or, write it on a calendar. Maybe you have a big family calendar in the kitchen with everybody's activities on it. And you check that every day to see what's going on. There's another reminder, right? So we're looking for visual cues that are not the pill or the medicine themselves, so that we still remember to take it on time, but we don't have that medicine in an easy to access area. It's a much safer strategy. We also want to give medicine safely. So reading and following that label every time will give you important information on dosing, ingredients, and warnings, so that you know how much medicine to give and when it should be given. You also want to check that label for the active ingredient, right? This is something that is listed on the medication. It will be on over-the-counter medications, and you can confirm that, yes, this is what I'm intending to give my child or my family member. It's important that you don't take drugs that or give drugs that have the same active ingredients in them unless your doctor has prescribed that, because that can lead to some pretty serious side effects. So the warnings and side effects listed on the medicine will also be a reminder for you about what to do and how to administer the medicine. So just to remember that even if your child is really sick, don't give them more than the medicine label says. Giving too much or too often will not help them feel better, and it might cause harm. Okay, so this is one of my favorite visuals. When we talk about medicine safety, we also want to think about the dosing device, right? It's really important to only use the dosing device that comes with the medicine. This could be a medicine cup, syringe, or spoon. And these are good. These are great. And we want you to use the one that comes with it, right? So it's accurate. You don't want to use a kitchen spoon. Spoons are not a reliable dosing device. Their size and shape varies, so you would not be able to give the accurate dose of medicine to your child. So we have a little saying in the poison world that says, spoons are for soups, not for medicine. And it sounds a little goofy, but it is a helpful reminder. So one tip, just to make sure you keep track of the dosing device that came with the medicine, is to store them together in a plastic bag. That's a really easy way to do it. After you use it, clean out the dosing device, put it in the bag, and then put it in your cabinet or your lockbox. Keep them together. You can band them together, tape them together. Just try to remember to keep them together so that when you need to use the medicine, you have the correct dosing device. So another strategy we recommend is using a medicine schedule or a tracking tool. We have a lot going on these days, and using these tools will help bring peace of mind and keep you on track, especially if more than one person in the family is giving medicine. So for example, a spouse or a grandparent or a babysitter, you'll want to be on the same page about the medicine for the child. So you can either print these off online, you can make your own. Everyone who's here today will get one in their safety packet after the event. But if you're going to use one, you need to make one or use one. You need to make sure you include the child's name, the name of the medicine, date and time medicine should be given, the amount of medicine that should be given, and then indicate if the scheduled dose was given. So in this example, this medicine schedule is for Jack, and he needs his medicine on Monday, 3:15 at 7 a.m. And his medicine is children's Tylenol, and the dose is 5 milliliters. And then the person in the family that gave him the medicine checks that right off, and everybody knows it's been done, and Jack is less at risk of being double dosed. If you have medicine for more than one child in your home, make a separate schedule for each child. Keep those things distinct and independent. So our next audience question is about, where do you go when you have questions about your child's medicine? Who would you call?
We'll wait for some chat. Oh, we got provider, the child's doctor, a peds advice nurse. These are all great.
Oh yeah, you guys are all over it. Great responses. Absolutely. So yeah, you guys have hit these right on the head. Child's doctor is a great resource. Your pharmacist is also a really good resource, or the pharmacist that lives near you. They're especially trained in drugs and medicine and can answer questions easily. Also, the poison helpline is available for this. Nurses, doctors, and pharmacists are available to answer those questions, and that's a free call too. So a little bit more about poison control and that poison helpline. Poison control should be called, you can call them if you have questions about that medicine. If someone was given the wrong amount of medicine, right? Not just children, but for adults too. Accidents and mix-ups happen for all of us. And also if someone has taken more medicine than they were supposed to, right? So you're concerned they have been double dosed or overdosed on a medication. Poison control can help with that. And the great thing is they may save you a trip to the hospital, right? So this is a great resource. When you should call 911. So there's a little bit of a difference here, and we just want to make sure you guys have these details. If someone stops breathing, if someone collapses, or if someone has had a seizure or is unresponsive, these are signs someone is in distress and they need hands-on emergency care right away. So in those cases, definitely call 911 first and get some medical treatment for that person. So a little more about the poison helpline. The poison helpline is 1-800-222-1222. This is a national number. So all poison control centers use it, and you can be anywhere in the country and call this number and get connected to local poison control. When you call, nurses, pharmacists, doctors are trained in toxic exposures and poisons and can answer your questions and give you emergency treatment advice. So in this slide, we have a gentleman here on the phone. He's looking at a bottle, and we'll say he's calling poison help. And this is one of our poison specialists named Mike, and he's a pharmacist, and he is helping this person through his questions. So if there is a poison emergency, they will tell you what to do and help you through that emergency. And we work really closely with paramedics, doctors, and hospitals who call us every day for advice. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We know things happen on holidays and weekends and in the middle of the night, so please don't hesitate to call. And it's free, guys. A lot of people don't realize poison control is a free service for you. They do not ask questions about insurance. It's also confidential. This is part of your medical care, so just remember that your records are kept secure. And if you need translation or help in another language, Poison Control has access to 150 languages, and also for folks who are hearing impaired. So there's no better time than right now to prepare for a poison emergency. We're going to go ahead and get that Poison Control hotline programmed into your phone. So for this activity, I'd love everybody to get their mobile device, hopefully that's within reach, and open up a new text message. So pretend like you're texting someone for the first time. In the to part of that message, enter the number 797979. And then down in the text message portion, type the word poison. And when you're ready, you can hit send. You can see from the example on the screen, you've got the 797979 in the to section and the word poison in the text message section. And what will happen after you send is you'll get this text back with a link in it. And when you click that link, it'll take you to a web page where you can click that blue button to add to your contacts. This works for iPhone and all Android devices. Might look slightly different as you do this, but once you add to contacts, that will show up as a contact in your address book. This is a great way to be prepared for a poison emergency and have that number handy should you need it. So hopefully you all were able to try that out. If you need support, put a question in the chat box and we'll help you as we go. So another great strategy is to have a safe disposal plan. Unused medicine in homes can pose risk for abuse, misuse, and accidents. And I think folks are pretty aware of the risks here after a number of years working on this. But there are a bunch of safe disposal options, and I encourage you to find one that works for you. Many pharmacies have drop boxes now right there in the pharmacy area. A lot of police stations have safe disposal year-round. If you don't have any of those nearby you, there's actually an FDA flush list, which is a list of medicines that the FDA has said are okay to flush down the toilet. They're not going to cause environmental harm. You definitely want to check your medication against that list to make sure that your medicine is on it. And then there are also year-round collection locations in different places in communities everywhere. And of course, there are DEA take-back days, and actually today happens to be the fall take-back day across the country. So these usually happen in October and April. Today is the fall event from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So depending on where you're joining us from, after this presentation, you could round up your unused medicine, find a location, and head over and drop it off. Allie, do folks have that bit.ly link in the chat?
I just sent it to the chat. So if anybody is interested in those take back days, go ahead and follow that link for more information.
Thank you so much. All right, we also want to encourage you to share the information you learned today with caregivers and other people involved in your child's life. So, family, babysitters, friends and guests, they can all help you with this, especially if they're caring for your child. So remember to offer to put purses, bags, and coats out of reach. If someone is going to be giving your child medicine, talk with them about how to give it and when. Those medicine tracking tools are really helpful for that conversation. And then make sure folks have access to the Poison Help number. You can have them program it in their phone just like you did, or write it down, or get one of our stickers and put it somewhere prominent. If you have children in the 5th through 8th grade age group, Johnson & Johnson and Scholastic has put together a curriculum on over-the-counter medicine safety. This is called OTC Literacy, and it's tailored for older children and young teens who are beginning to use over-the-counter medicine on their own, right? We talked about that age group. 11 is about when they start using it, and then they're pretty independent by 16. It's intended to develop over-the-counter literacy and help prepare students for real-world situations with medicine. So if you're interested in having this program at your child's school or a youth group we want you to get in touch because we can help support this. So speaking of which, American Medical Response of Multnomah and Clackamas counties, which is one of our Safe Kids Portland Metro partners and happens to be the coalition lead, is available to help with these classes. And Allison Treischel here, who's our moderator, is the primary contact for that. So if you are interested in this, please do get in touch with her. And one of our other Safe Kids Portland Metro partners and sponsors for this event is OHSU Dornbecker's Tom Sargent Safety Center. And they're available for home safety consultations and have safety items available at a reduced cost to all families. This is a great place to get those medicine lock boxes and lock bags. They have the best prices, folks, so they can be Amazon. If you need a box, this is the place to go. But again, they can do consultations in your home. And typically they would go out to your home, but I think they're doing them virtually right now. This is a free service for folks in the community. You do not have to be a patient at OHSU to use these services. So they have a website with lots of information that's listed here and contact information if you want to get in touch. Then of course we talked about this some, but the Poison Center is available to help anytime you have a question or concern. We have poison safety materials and information on our website if you want to check that out or download it. You can also order Poison Help materials and Mr. Yuck stickers from us. So please go ahead and do that if that's something that would be helpful to you. Our website is there with a phone number as well. So that wraps up the content of our presentation today. I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation and also had some things to take away and think about. But I want to turn it back over to Allie to moderate the chat if any questions have come up.
Right, and we've got a few questions I've been collecting, but if any of the participants have any more questions or comments, please go ahead and put those in the chat box now, and we'll go through the ones that I've collected so far. So the first question is, if a child was to put medicine in their mouth thinking that it was candy, wouldn't they just spit that out because it tastes bad?
It's a great question. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't, right? So their taste buds are actually not all that developed when they're young. They may not be able to taste things the same way an adult does. And sometimes these medicines are coated with things to intentionally make them taste better. That's so adults can take them more easily. Or even children, right? That amoxicillin has that bubblegum flavor to it. So that might actually be more appealing to children. You would think they would spit it out right away, but those additives actually have created a more pleasurable experience for folks taking medicine.
All right, thank you. Okay, another question we got was, do you or does the Oregon Poison Center have any specific brand or product that you would recommend as the most effective for locking away medicines?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I don't have a specific one, but I think any of those boxes that are locking is going to add that protection that we talked about. And if you don't have access to one of those kind of boxes or feel like you can't get a hold of one, you can make one with a locking tackle box. That's something we used to do before these medicine lock boxes came on the market. We would take tackle boxes that had a hole or a opening for a lock on it, and we'd use those to put our medicine in and then find a padlock or a combination lock to put on the box. And again, these things are not indestructible. Someone is really determined they could smash it open, but it's going to help if you have small children in the home. Those things, kids are not going to be able to get through those things. I personally really like that locking bag just because it's convenient and I can put it inside other things when I'm on the go.
Great, thank you. Another question we got was whether or not that poison line is just for medicine questions.
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. It is not just for medicine questions. We take calls about all kinds of things, all kinds of poisons, all kinds of exposures, plants, cleaning products, bites and stings, pesticides, things people find in the garage. And it's not just for kids either. We get a lot of calls for adult exposures as well. We get probably half for kids, but adults, have accidents and do things too. So feel free to call, and even if you're not sure there was an exposure, we can definitely help you.
We got a comment, not a question, but I like it. I think it illustrates your point. Someone's child bit a hole into one of those reusable ice cubes, and they called the poison line just to be safe.
Oh yeah, great. That's perfect. See, sometimes it's hard to tell, right? You don't know necessarily what's inside something. So it's a pretty quick call and they'll be able to tell you how to proceed, right? What you need to do. We keep about 80 to 90% of our home exposure calls at home, meaning people who got into things at home were able to keep them at home and prevent them from going to see a doctor in the hospital. And that does save people a lot of money. So we always say better safe than sorry.
Got our last question here, but if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to send those in now. But what do somebody do if they can't find that dosing device that came with the medicine?
That's a great question. And that happens, right? I mean, even when we try to keep things together,
Oh yeah,
things disappear. So my best advice to you is to call your pharmacist or call the pharmacist at the pharmacy you go to and let them know what the medication is and that you lost the dosing device, and they'll be able to direct you, right? You can even take it in and show them, and they have those things at the pharmacy, and they can recommend one that would be an adequate replacement. The main thing is not to use a kitchen spoon or find another cup in your home to administer the medicine. It's really important, especially with children, to keep those doses accurate.
Thank you. That's all the questions that we had come in, but oh, Lucy's got one. Lucy?
I do. We were talking about, well, kids at home, but and outside. So I have a question. Say your child or family member encounters poison ivy or poison oak or something like that. Is that an appropriate call to the poison center to know what to do next?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. They'll be able to help with that and give you some advice about how to treat it. And since we brought up things outside, this is mushroom fruiting season in Oregon. So we're starting to see a lot of wild mushrooms crop up. Last year, we had the biggest mushroom fruiting season in Oregon in 20 years. So we got a lot of calls about mushroom exposures, right? Those things are right at that ground level where kids are exploring. And even adults who think, oh, that looks like a mushroom in the grocery store. I'm gonna try that out. So yeah, feel free to call about things that happen outdoors. We work with the Oregon Mycological Society and their mushroom experts to help identify mushrooms when people eat them. And also our healthcare system when folks get really sick from eating one that is poisonous.
Mm-hmm. Would the parent or caregiver want to, take a picture of the mushroom?
Yeah,
would that be the most helpful? Yeah.
If there's a mushroom exposure, we recommend taking a photo, and if you still have the mushroom or a piece of the mushroom, put it in a paper bag and put it in your fridge. Make sure you label that bag "do not eat," right? Because we don't want people to mistake it. But if our experts can look at that closely, they can typically make a good determination about what it is.
Okay. Yeah, my yard is full of them right now. So that just came to mind. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
All right.
Well, again, thank you so much, folks. If you still have questions, keep them coming. We're going to be on for a few more minutes here, but I did want to remind everybody that if you registered and provided your mailing address, you will receive a safety packet in the mail, thanks to all of our webinar presenters, and you're going to get some great resources there. And also keep your eye out for a follow-up email with some links and downloads. We want to keep you well stocked with things you can use to keep kids safe.